aware, recording this session. I say that to you so that you are aware that I'm recording it, so that you know that is being recorded. So by by state law, I'm I'm notifying you that I'm recording this session, and obviously it's for the fact that then you can review it later, or others can review it later just in case they were not able to make it this Sunday evening. I hope all are well. I hope all are enjoying a long holiday. Hopefully tomorrow you have off, or at least you have some time to relax. Obviously, the university's closed tomorrow, so you may be thinking why your university instructor is working on a holiday weekend. Well, we don't get much breaks anyway, so we do what we can. All right, as people are jumping in and joining in, my name is Tyler Wells. Most of you understand that and know that. I'm the chair of the Office of Clinical Studies. Our intent and purpose this evening is to give you an overview or a larger kind of perspective of the year-long residency, but more importantly, answer specific questions that you may have pertaining to the residency beginning the academic year of 2019-2020, and what it is that we will be doing, what's occurring statewide, nationally, in terms of residency, and how it makes an impact on who and what you are. So thank you. I appreciate it. Sit back for the next couple of minutes. I promise not to be too long-winded. If I am, forgive me, I'm getting old. So why are we doing a residency? What's the big deal? Well, in 2010, there was a report called the Blue Ribbon Panel Report on Teacher Preparation from what then was called NCATE, or the National Council for Accreditation of Teacher Education. And this report basically stated that the traditional pathway, or the traditional student teaching, quote unquote student teaching, was seriously flawed, that there are absolutely better ways to prepare teachers. So in 2010, when reviewing this document, we began to make changes to not only our traditional pathway of student teaching, such as our practicum, and not just increasing hours, but truly focusing in on what we do in our clinical experiences and where our students have clinical experiences and those types of experiences out in the field. And it's a focus on ensuring that we create a model that prepares our candidates to be day one ready, or learner ready. And out of this conversation from 2010 to 2014, a clear picture came to focus, which is there has to be an alternate method or an alternate manner in which we prepare candidates for the particular positions or the particular opportunities for employment in today's public schools and today's educational arenas. And so by 2014, the year-long residency was born, if you will, or constructed. We started very small. We only had 9 candidates. And out of the residency, we began to define clearly what it is that a residency, full immersion, medical type model approach to teaching would be. And as we have moved along and progressed, we have created an experience for our candidate that focuses on a type of cohort approach to teaching that emphasizes collaboration, co-teaching, and a focus on those environments or those settings of providing services to diverse children or children in diverse settings. And so where you are today now with Wilmington University is an opportunity to engage in probably one of the most rigorous, intensive, and career-altering options that the university and the College of Education has for our candidates. And I say that now not just with anecdotal kind of reports or maybe feelings we have towards a particular program. We have clear and specific data that represents the following. We have 100% higher rate for those candidates who graduate from the year-long residency, meaning that those individuals who go through the year-long residency typically, if not always, get hired in the same district in which they were completing their experience. Or they are hired in a district that serves the same children in which they were participating in the residency in. The second point of data is our retention rate. We are almost at a 100% retention rate. We have one candidate who decided to leave the profession, but it was due to pregnancy, obviously. In this case, that's why she left. But, right, we have to be transparent. So I'd like to say 100%, but I can't. But almost 100% of our candidates who've completed the year-long residency are still teaching today. They're still teaching in the classrooms in which they served the populations in which their residency were assigned. The last part of this is what's called efficacy. Your ability to truly understand the teaching profession, and not just understand it, but to engage in it and to be learner ready, day one ready, teacher ready. Our efficacy rate is as high as our retention and our employment rate. When our candidates are out in the field, those individuals who now graduated in 2014 and now have had 3 to almost 4 years of teaching experience in a public school setting, they are performing at their counterparts' 10-year mark. Now, what that means to you is a third-year teacher or a fourth-year teacher is as good as a veteran teacher who's been teaching as 10 years out in the field. Now, why is that important? That means that that individual understands the children they are serving, they understand curriculum, they understand teaching. And this is because of the program that they completed through the residency option. So that's why we're here tonight. And that's why we're talking with you this evening, because we want to provide to you the details that are connected to the residency option, the process that is connected to this entire timeline, and what it means to you as an individual. It's also an opportunity, obviously, for all of you to ask me directly the questions that many of you have as to probably the following categories: dedication, commitment, time frame, and cost, as to how this residency option impacts who you are as a teacher candidate at Wilmington University. Now, all of you should have received the link that I am sharing with you now. For those that are calling in, I'm recording this so you can watch it at a later date and time, but I'm sharing the website that provides in detail the year-long residency, our year-long residency candidate resource homepage. In it, I have a detail of information pertaining to the residency option, the details, our competencies, who we are, what we believe is a conceptual framework for teaching, and so forth. You are all very obviously conscientious and educated individuals. You do not need me to read any of this materials and resources to you. However, those key resources and materials do highlight some of those questions and concerns that you may have. And so my purpose then over the next 5 minutes will be to detail what we plan to do, who we are, and what we support you through, and what it is that you will expect. And so I'd like to begin with a course of action or a timeline. And then I'll pause at each time for questions that you may have. The flip side of that too is don't hesitate to ask questions as I go along. You are not interrupting me. You are not offending me if you have questions. It is a pleasure for me to provide those answers to you. Let's begin then with the following. Between now, today's date, the 17th, and over the course of the next roughly 3 months, we are going to go through a process of what we call eligibility and matching. Eligibility meaning ensuring that you as a candidate are eligible for the year-long residency, that you provide the information necessary as such that I detailed in my last email to you, that you are preparing to pass the Praxis 2 as an example, and that eventually you are a good match for one of the mentor teachers at the various residency sites that we provide and partner with at the various districts across the state of Delaware, Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex County. This process will entail one where you will be providing, as you saw in the last email, a summary, a biography, your lesson plans, your video recordings, and you'll be placing that in your digital portfolio. That digital portfolio will be shared with the mentor teachers across the state of Delaware who are part of the year-long residency. In addition to that, we will be establishing site visits, meaning you will be told when the respective sites that align to your program of study will be made available to you to visit, and you will get a chance to visit the mentor teacher, visit and talk to the principal, get a feel for the school environment, the demographics, the contextual backgrounds of the children, if you will, who they are, the population, to get a feel for the respective building, atmosphere, culture. The reason for those visitations, so that you understand the school itself, the children that they are serving. A point of very clear clarification for you. Please know that we select sites based on the state of Delaware's priority rating system, meaning we do not have year-long residency sites at schools that are serving children who are not of need. We only have residency sites with children who are at risk in high poverty individual settings of those natures, where we are serving, or I should say we are providing services to underserved children, elementary, middle, and high school. As an example, we are currently working with the Christina School District to create a brand new year-long residency site at either Bayard or Bancroft Elementary School. We also, as an example, in Kent County, have residency sites in North Dover Elementary and Town Point Elementary. Both are identified as high needs environments. We have a variety of elementary, middle, and high school settings that connect to children in that capacity. And that is our primary focus for the residency. You may ask yourself, why do we do that? The reason is very simple. Those are where the jobs are. The teaching profession in the state of Delaware clearly identifies the highest turnover rate are those environments that are serving the most challenging students. And as such, if we prepare you equally and effectively enough, you can gain employment in those areas. And that's why we have residency placements in those particular settings. After you complete your site visitations, we'll move on to then what we call matching interviews. It will be an opportunity for mentor teachers from those sites to connect, communicate, ask key questions of you in a one-on-one kind of environment where you will answer questions pertaining to dispositions, your personality, your teaching to date and practicum, your feelings and emotions towards children who are in underserved populations. A host of questions are asked of you, not to catch you or to put you in a position, but more so to get a better understanding of who you are as an individual. So the mentor teachers can identify to whom they want to have as a candidate for the residency. Please think of this as a long-term relationship. You are going to be, hopefully, in a school setting for more than almost 200 days, an entire school academic year. Think of it as a bit of a year marriage, if you will. And it's an opportunity for you and the mentor teacher to get to know each other. You certainly don't want to spend a year with a mentor teacher that you can't create a connection to, and vice versa, right? The mentor teacher doesn't want to spend a year with a candidate in which they cannot make a connection with. It's truly based on matching and ensuring a good fit. After matching is completed, you are then assigned a site, typically within the time frame of late April to beginning of May, which then gives the candidate and the mentor teacher the rest of the academic year, typically mid-June, to work in concert in understanding curriculum that will be implemented the next year, the children that'll be coming up, so to speak, from the next grade level, right? So their preparation for understanding the population, and of course, in working together and collaborating on how to engage in the residency academic year next. You then would begin over the summer to work with professional development with Wilmington University and the faculty of the Office of Clinical Studies in preparation for working with the populations that are provided and which you'll be assigned. And then you would begin your academic year in late August as a year-long residency candidate. So I'm going to stop there. As a good teacher, at least I hope I think I am, or at least I was, in the public school settings myself, I'll give a moment for questions pertaining to the timeline of all things. And please, you can type, you can, don't be afraid to speak up.
Mr. Wells?
Hi, good evening. Yes.
Hi, it's Shelley Smith. I have a question. I haven't, I'm on the phone, so I haven't got the site in front of me right now. I was wondering about, as far as where do we have to be in order to be eligible by the summer? Like if I'm in practicum 1, will I be able to still be eligible or not?
Yes, we are very flexible, and those individuals who identify early their dedication and commitment to the year-long residency option, if they are and do so, then the mentor teacher who they are assigned is willing to house that individual for a end of, if you will, semester into a summer session for practicum 2, so that then you would allow yourself, or you would have, if you will, that alignment between practicum 3, student teaching, assessment, methodology, or the pedagogy coursework that's required. So, Shelley, to answer your question, you're in practicum 1 now. Of course, we also work with your practicum 1 instructor If your Practicum 1 instructor is very clearly identifying that you are progressing right appropriately and moving forward, then we also use that in judgment to ensure that you are still eligible for the residency in the academic year next.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great question. I have another per chat. So Lynette, I do not have the summer professional development dates available as of yet. As you can imagine, that does take coordination with the mentor teachers that are part of the year-long residency across the state, because they are active participants in that professional development. However, I will clearly say that by April, the end of April, you are also if matched, you would get those dates in a timely manner. Please know that there are not many of them. We don't have a gross amount of professional development dates. It is the summer. Obviously, you all have lives. So we typically restrict the professional development dates to only 3 during the summer. And we'll clearly identify those early on. Kaylee asks a very good question. When do we have to pass Praxis 2? So, Kaylee and others that are listening, you will need to pass Praxis 2 in your content area during the summer prior to residency, meaning you would start the residency program by the end of August, late August. You would need to have Praxis 2 passed by that time. So I've got a couple of questions. Let me go through these one by one. Okay? So Kaylee, and Kaylee, I hope I am saying your name correctly. Please forgive me if I'm not. Kaylee asks another quality question here as to location. At this time, Kaylee, we are not legally allowed to run a residency program outside the state of Delaware. We may not run a residency program in New Jersey, Maryland, or PA at this time. There are multiple reasons for each state's conflict. As an example, in New Jersey, we are only allowed to have and house special education master's residency. But even then, we're still working with various legislators in New Jersey to coordinate a residency program. So at this time, for the academic year of 1920, we are only looking in the state of Delaware as a residency option. It's a great question, though. Thank you, Kaylee. Lynette asks a question. Are we opening up a residency at Brown Elementary in the Caesar Rodney School District? Lynette, that's a very good question. We have begun talks with the Caesar Rodney School District. Unfortunately, Caesar Rodney School District does not fall within a priority district, meaning the state of Delaware and the Delaware Department of Education does not identify Caesar Rodney as a high needs school district. It is not similar to Capital, say Red Clay, Christina, Colonial, Seaford, Indian River. Those respective districts have various populations that would identify or designate as a priority kind of environment. That doesn't mean that we aren't looking at Riley Brown in the Caesar Rodney School District, because Dr. Frampton is a very good friend of ours and who is interested in residency. But I cannot promise you, Lynette, that we would have a residency option for the academic 1920 at Brown Elementary.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Hi, it's Shelley again.
Sure.
Jumping off of what you just said, so does that mean that they are not, well, I have a two-part question. One part was, what if I haven't decided if I strictly want to do elementary ed or I'm kind of leaning towards special ed? And I know it's a dual certification, so that's my first question. When must I make the choice? Two, are the special ed in Caesar Rodney, does that still not fall under that priority?
So actually, in terms of priority, so I'll answer backwards. The state of Delaware is looking at not just special education as a category. It's not how they view it. We're looking within priority environments on a host of categories, from lower socioeconomic status within a community perspective to testing, state testing, student achievement. So there are various categories that designate either a school or a district to align to that setting or that designation. So that's a great question, and it's one that we look at all the time. And in the state of Delaware, from district boiling down or going to the very small levels at the elementary level or middle level or a secondary level at the schools themselves, that also fluctuates year to year or sometimes in a cyclical fashion. So one year, a district or a school may be designated as a high needs one year, and then next year it's not. So it can be very interesting to follow the fluctuating kind of conflicts that's occurring. So what we try to do, Shelley, is we try to maintain our sites in those settings that are consistently, and that's the key word, consistently serving children with highest of need. And I hope that answers. So the other part of your question, which is a really important question. So I have to do some background information, so I apologize to all up front. So it may be individualized in nature, and Shelley, it may be something that you and I can talk offline, which is the following. If you're are you elementary education? Are you elementary education, correct?
I am, but I worked 2 years as a special ed para, and now I kind of, I'm kind of two mindsets. Like I really enjoyed working with the children, and I do think it's very important. So now I'm kind of torn.
Well, let's clarify something very clearly then, so this helps. In the state of Delaware, your content area comes first. Your content area is your first license. So if you're an elementary education major, your initial licensure will be in elementary education, not special education. Gotcha. Okay.
But I could conceivably go ahead and write the praxis for special ed as well, and have that as a something
you
else.
Will. Yes, eventually, if you're in a program of study like the undergraduate elementary K-6 program, as an example, and I can go into detail for everyone else a little bit later, or Shelley, you specifically offline, I'm happy to do so, because I don't want to veer away too far away from the residency. But essentially, licensure falls into two categories: initial licensure and secondary licensure. Initial licensure is content specific. Secondary licensure, for you, Shelley, as an example, would be special education. As such, you would need to not only take the coursework, that the state of Delaware has identified as specific coursework in special education, but you would also have to take the Praxis 2 in special education as well to have secondary license in special education. And that's where you may go, okay, now wait a minute, how does that apply to me? And then how about we do this, Shelley? Why don't you email me tonight, and you and I can go offline and I can spend some time with you on that one. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Some other questions then. Tamina, I'm sorry to say that at the present, the Brandywine School District does not have a residency option. However, I am working with the superintendent of the district, and I'm also connecting to the principal at Harlan Elementary School because they are identified. Harlan Elementary School is a priority school now in the state of Delaware. So we are looking to the possibility of residency 1920 at Harlan Elementary in Brandywine. I cannot, as I indicated with Lynette, promise you that option, because it does speak to the number of candidates that we'll be serving. If we have more than 20 elementary candidates, we are going to need to expand, and so we will be pushing that, of course, because Harlan is a great environment for residency working with at-needs children. It's a great question. I see some questions about timeline for our our portfolio, and I see that was responded to. I have a question from, I believe, Ashley, right? Yes. How many spots are available this year? Well, Ashley, we have lots of spots available. We are expanding. We would love to provide and have an opportunity for all to engage in the residency. I want to reiterate to everyone that this is a matching type of setting or matching type of event. What's best for the mentor teacher and what's best for the candidate. I go back to that kind of example that this is a marriage, and you certainly don't want to be married to someone that you don't like. And we need to ensure that we've matched people correctly, but we've also matched them and we've lived within our promise to the sites, to the residency sites, and to the children that we're serving, that we stay within a cohort. You're going to need to stay within a cohort of 2 or 3 candidates working together at a school site with 2 or 3 mentor teachers. So we certainly attempt to maintain that. So Kaylee jumps in. Very good. Yes. It's we are open and it's available to all. Do all get matched to mentor teachers? No, I'm not going to be. I'm going to be very transparent. Some mentor teachers, after they meet with the candidates, don't want those candidates, and that's the mentor teacher's rights to do that, right? It's their classroom. The children that they are serving, that's their job, that's their requirement. So have we had to turn away a candidate or two? Yes, I'm not going to say I've never done that. However, as we expand and as we've now offered and are gaining more residency options and sites, more and more teachers obviously are available to our candidates. So don't be nervous, Kaylee. That's not what you want out of this, right? You want an experience in which you're matched to someone that will provide you that opportunity to learn and grow. And that's what we want for you as well. So these are good questions. Are there others that align to timeline or align to the process that's connected to the email that I sent about your digital portfolio and so forth?
Hi, Paolo. This is Amanda.
Oh, can you speak up a little bit louder? I can't seem to hear you.
That's great. This is Amanda DePrima. I have a question regarding the interviewing process. Does it normally take like weeks? Like, do you just go to a different each day of the week, or is it kind of just like random
Oh, Amanda, I cannot hear you. Can you hold on for just one moment and let me see if can you repeat your question, Amanda? I could barely hear you.
Yeah, that's okay. Can you hear me now?
Barely, just barely. I'm so sorry. Could
It's
I
okay.
ask? Could I ask? Could I ask Sherry and Kaylee? Could you possibly mute yourselves for just a second? That may be one of the reasons where Amanda's not being able to come through. Try again, Amanda.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is for the interviewing process, is it all within like 1 week or is it through the month?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks, Amanda. So what we do is we will set up specific days in a 1 week time frame to go through the matching interview questions. So, for example, Newcastle County, the meeting of the mentor teachers and the interviewing and the asking of questions and all of those things that you're just saying, that will happen on one day. Okay, and it will happen in one day for each county. So, as an example, Newcastle County, the teachers who are assigned to the residency site will come to the Newcastle campus on that Monday, as an example, and all of you will come to the Newcastle campus on that Monday. And in Kent County, it may be Tuesday, and so forth. Okay, so yes, during those interviews, if we want quote unquote interviews, those matching interviews, yes, it's one day and it's that week. However, that's not the process of, though, also going out to the school sites. Those are scheduled over a set course of time. You have the opportunity to go out and visit multiple sites over a set period in which those sites are open and inviting you as a candidate to come and observe, interact, engage, and communicate with not just the mentor teachers, but also the kids themselves. So here's a good example, Newcastle County. So let's take our schools currently. We have, as an example, Shortledge and Ritchie Elementary. We have Colonial School District. We have Eisenberg Elementary. All right, those are just three good examples right now. We'll set up a number of dates that you would go out and you'd be able to visit all those school sites. And as we get the other school sites, hopefully in Christina and Brandywine, they would be included in those dates to visit, engage, ask questions, and so forth. The school visitations occur before the interviewing, before the meeting where you're asked those questions, those key questions. Amanda, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And some questions are coming in versus oh God, not versus. Pardon me. From the chat. So I'm going to go back up. I think I missed one. Thank you, Kara. From Kristen. Do we have to pass the special education praxis before the program starts? And the answer is no. You only have to pass the praxis 2 in the content area in which you are enrolled. So if you're an elementary education major, that means you have to pass the elementary education praxis 2 prior to the start of the program. Sorry, Kristen, for missing your question. And Leslie, I see that you asked about the site visits. Does my response earlier help, or do you have an additional need? Don't you love technology, Leslie? Okay. So Jenna asks a great question. Yes, Jenna, of course. There is always the opportunity within the school sites to have flexibility. If by chance, let's say, Jenna, I really obviously don't know you. I don't know all of you yet, and I hope to know all of you, of course. Let's say, Jenna, you have a doctor's appointment, or you have work or something, and the date is in conflict. You would work with me, and we would connect with the principal, and we would establish a date for you to visit the sites. Absolutely. You have no concern about us not being flexible to match and to meet your particular needs. You all have great questions. Thank you so much. Danielle, it's a great question. I think what we would have to do is very much like Jenna, try to work within a structure so that you would have the opportunity, right, to go and visit. And that's something I can work with individually as you go through the process. I have no problem doing that for you. It seems that some of the questions are being answered. So let me move from timeline and implementation to some of those more key structural parts of, if you will, of the year-long residency. So let's talk about your coursework, okay? And let's talk about what's required of you for coursework. So if you're an elementary education major, you're going to complete your Practicum 3, your student teaching, your assessment course, and your pedagogy or your 4 methods courses during your residency year. Now that doesn't matter if you're an undergraduate or if you're a master's degree student. It doesn't matter, okay? So it's okay. Now, some of you may have done one of your methods courses already, and you may be sitting there thinking, well, I've done one. Does that exclude me? No, of course not. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So if you're an elementary education major and your master's or undergraduate, and you have all these courses that are done during that year, that's something that you're going to experience as what we call a competency-based approach. Now, that can be confusing in its own right because you don't come to campus. You don't have an instructor. There's no professor. And so how does this all get accomplished? Your assigned mentor teacher facilitates and guides you through those requirements, benchmarks, competencies, objectives, goals, if you will, of the respective coursework. Does it mean that you come to campus at night to take a 7-week block? No. Does it mean I have to come to campus and take a course with an instructor during the year-long residency academic year? No. Do I still have to sign up for courses? Absolutely, yes. You have to still have that on your transcript, or the state of Delaware won't award you your license. But will you learn the same content and the same material? Absolutely. But it will be done through a hands-on, collaborative, integrative approach by your mentor teacher. Now, those of you who are in middle level or secondary, don't feel left out. It's the same thing. Your coursework's just a little bit different. At the middle level and the secondary level, you don't have 4 methods courses because you're only teaching one content area. You may be middle level math, or maybe you're 7 through 12 science. So you would only be doing, right, your one content area. But the difference is you don't teach just one section of math. right? At the middle or the secondary level, you may be teaching 5 sections of math throughout the entire day to different levels of children and different diverse learners. And that's the beauty of this particular program, everyone, is that what you learn is through a hands-on, collaborative, interactive approach, and it's all done at the school with your mentor teacher guiding and facilitating learning. How to teach. It's what we call the medical model approach. How do doctors learn how to do a surgery? They actually do it, right? Under the guidance of another experienced doctor. Well, this is the same approach. You're learning to teach in the content area under a practiced, veteran, and quality mentor teacher. Now, will you still have to meet requirements for Wilmington University? Absolutely, yes. Yes, you'll have to use TaskStream. Yes, you'll have to teach lessons. Yes, you'll have to upload those in TaskStreams, and you'll have those things that are due, but that's what we do for you. That's what we facilitate through your what you call an assigned supervisor. Your supervisor is assigned to you, and they lead you through all of this process for the requirements or the activities, the connection to coursework. Now, if you are a candidate who falls within the normal, the typical framework of coursework, all right, you're going to take in the academic year what one would be as a full-time student. So as an example, in the fall semester, September 2019, you would take at the elementary level your 4 methods and your practicum. That would equate to 13 credits. Then during the spring, you would register and sign up for student teaching in the clinical assessment course. That would be 9 credits for student teaching, 3 credits for the assessment course. Obviously, we all can do math here. That's 12 credits. You can see how many credits you would be taking. Now, of course, middle level and secondary folks, it's a little bit different, of course, right? Because you're taking different courses, but you can identify the number of courses that you'll be taking. For my middle level candidates and my secondary candidates, you do have the flexibility to also take additional coursework. Here's where one of the primary benefits to the residency option comes into play. Anyone who is engaging in the residency year from fall 19 to spring 2020 receives a 50% reduction in their tuition for any course taken during that academic year. So if you're taking all your methods and your practicum 3 and your student teaching and your clinical assessment, everything is at 50% reduction of tuition. And that's across the board for master's, undergraduate, and any program alignment. So that's whatever content area you're in. Now, in terms of coursework and registration and all that kind of stuff, well, that's my job. Once I get you matched and you are in the program, that's my job. I get you all prepared and I tell you how to do it and what you do. And so I alleviate a lot of the stress and the frustration and the worries about registration, because that's something I take on my shoulders, and I walk you through the entire process. So what you need to know is that you still will be taking coursework. You will be registering for coursework, and it's required because on your transcript, it still has to say student teaching, and it still has to say methods courses. It still has to be there, right, for the state of Delaware in terms of licensure. But in terms of a process, obviously, that's my job for you. I work with you. Absolutely, Amanda, you will. Absolutely. So these are great questions that are hopefully coming through, and or maybe you're digesting all of this stuff as I'm going through it. So we've covered a couple of things. We've covered some timeline, when are things occurring, and two, we've talked about some implementation areas of coursework, and of course you're going to have questions about, well, gosh, if I get accepted and I'm with a mentor teacher, when do I learn about curriculum and when do I learn about all this stuff? Well, that will come in time, and that will come in process. So, and I know you're excited about to learn all those things, but I think you want to take it like most big adventures, take one step at a time. I promise you'll get to all those details. Right now, your next detail is a conversation about commitment and dedication, and how rigorous this program is. And I preface this portion of the conversation not by saying it to scare you, but to make sure that this is truly right for you. So we all know, hopefully, by reviewing the website and details, this is a Monday through Friday event. You are at the school in which you are assigned every single day of the week. You are there roughly at when the school year begins. It's about a week before the children arrive. You're there all year long, and then you leave roughly 1 week after the children are ending for the summer. You're there when the teacher arrives, and you leave when the teacher leaves, essentially, right? So if it's a start time at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're there at 7:15 or 7:30. And if dismissal is 3 o'clock, you're rolling out at 4, right? I mean, it's a full day of work, if you will. I say this with the intent of who I am as an individual. I am a teacher at heart. I always will be a teacher. I was a principal. That came next. My third career is an instructor and professor. We remember the children that we are serving first and foremost. And as such, if you are selected, right, if you're matched and you're here at the residency, you become an integral part of the children's lives. Remember, this school teacher is responsible for them coming in and leaving and learning. And if you're there all year, you're part of that there as well. You are now part of that learning process. You are making an impact. That's the commitment part. That's the dedication part. That's the impact part. Now, the other side of this is who you are as an individual. The hard part is this is Monday through Friday. You will find it very difficult to work while you are doing this residency. I have candidates who are working on the weekends now presently. So that means they work, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and then they are back into the school Monday through Friday. This begins a conversation about the level of connectivity and commitment. So you are at a point where if this is of interest to you, you are saying to yourself, I'm going to be engaging in a program and option that I'm dedicating to myself for 200 days, essentially. And I know that within those 200 days, I'm making an impact on the children's lives that I'm serving. And I've got to be there presently in mind and body for those days each and every day. Looks like I've got some questions. Yes, Kara, yes. In looking back to another question that was similar in nature, if your Practicum 1 instructor who you're currently working with indicates that you are progressing appropriately and adequately, and they give me, if you will, quote unquote, a thumbs up, and then we get you working and aligned to a mentor teacher in a residency site, and what we can do is create what's called a directed study for Practicum 2, in which then you would complete Practicum 2 roughly from May-ish, late April, May, June, during that timeline with your assigned mentor teacher at the residency site. And that directed study would be with me. I would be your professor, if you will, your instructor for the directed study. I hope that answers your question. Oh, Amanda, you ask a question as well. If there's a certain day oh, absolutely, Amanda. I'm going to say this to all of you, and I've had it happen to my current residency folks. They will get sick. You will get sick. You're going to need to take a day off. Life happens. You, of course, that's part of the program. It's part of the option. You're there Monday through Friday a whole year. Absolutely. You can take a day off when you need it because of family, life, children. It's going to happen. These people are very understanding. One area that needs to be clearly addressed with all of you, okay, is that like everything else, when it comes to programs of this nature, any type of compensation or stipend that we can provide to candidates is based on any resource or source of funding that we get. Currently, we are working with it's called the Longwood Foundation, and you all know Dell Computers, I'm sure. They have a foundation called the Dell Foundation, and we are actively seeking funding. We're actively seeking money so that we can create a compensation package for candidates. Now, I will say this very clearly to all. There is no guarantee for compensation or stipend or funding for any candidate in academic year 1920 at this time. We're just waiting to find out what kind of money or funding we can gather from these individuals. In addition to that, we are currently working with the state of Delaware. Many of you may have heard the governor's State of the Union or State of the State address, where he clearly indicated funding for residency options. Residency options meaning compensation, money given to candidates during their residency year to live off of. Now, we are hoping that the state of Delaware will provide this money in a timely fashion for the academic 1920 year. So I've been working with various legislators and local constituents to influence, if you will, positively influence their work towards compensation. And as I've been speaking, some other questions have arisen. So please, if I may, answer those. Yes, Lynette, you would begin. You would have the opportunity to start engaging and visit and participate in professional development. There is that opportunity to work with your mentor teacher. You may do that. There is also, as Kara indicated, professional development done during the summertime with your mentor teacher. Part of it's constructed by us, and there's part of it constructed by the district, which is extremely beneficial to you because, as all of you know, this is, if you will, a 200-day interview for a job. What hours will we meet with the mentor teacher? Lynette, as soon as I know, we would let you know. Please know that. We would not hold that. We would not hold that from you. Sorry, Kara. Is that any better? Can everyone hear me?
Are you still?
Yes. Yes. Is everyone there?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like maybe there was some limited connectivity there. Sorry about that. Okay, and I am a firm believer in trying to keep in a timeline folks. I know it's 8 o'clock. And I don't want to, pull you away more so from family, friends, loved ones, significant others. Danielle, yes, correct, Danielle. Each and every year that we have run the year-long residency, we have clearly stated to our candidates there is no promise of compensation or stipend. Now, we've been lucky, knock on wood, that we've always been able to manage up and manage stipend, but I cannot ethically, right, sit here and say to you as a candidate that I'm going to have a stipend, because that would be wrong. So I don't want to say that, right? I don't want to say that, yes, I'm going to get it for you. I can't do that. So I've got to clearly indicate that I cannot promise compensation or stipend at this time. And I hope that makes sense. So what our next steps then from this evening are as follows. I will be sending out to all of you within the next 2 weeks an open invitation to the site visitations at the various districts and school sites across the state of Delaware, and that's Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex County. It will be an open invitation in which you will then connect with myself and those parties that are connected to the school sites. There'll be time frames to visit. As I've indicated, by chance, if you're not able to visit, we'll make additional accommodation for visitation. Not a problem. We'll work. Sorry, excuse me. It will be one in terms of next steps, where once those school visitations are set and we communicate them, I'll also communicate to you those dates that we'll gather live and in person, right, to go through matching and interviews and questions and all that kind of good stuff, if you will, about getting to know each other and getting to know the mentor teachers better and so forth. So all of that will be laid out to you in the next steps, quote, unquote, next steps email. Sorry, I've got some questions. Do we have to do the year long in our home county? Diana, that's a good question. No. If you would, if you prefer to do a residency in another county, Newcastle, Kent, Sussex, my goodness, yes, it's all open. I mean, it's not restrictive in nature to that area. Kara asks a good question. Do we go to every county site? Kara, that's up to you. If you feel like maybe you're on a bordering edge between two counties, maybe Newcastle and Kent or Kent and Sussex, and it may be beneficial to you to visit other sites, then yes, I would suggest that you do so. I thank you for these great questions. They are they're of quality, and I appreciate that. No, Kara, not mandatory. However, right, if you don't go to all the sites, then how do the mentor teachers get to meet you? So I'll leave that as such. Lynette, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and that's the other way too, Kara, looking at it this way. Kara, if you're Newcastle County and Lynette, such as yourself, you're Kent County, I'm not mandating that you go visit Newcastle and Sussex. I don't want you to think that I'm going to make you drive there. No. If you're Kent County, you'll stay in Kent County. But if you're willing to go somewhere else, then let me know. Then you that way you have flexibility. Maybe I should have said it that way. Okay. All right. Well, it's maybe a good time just to say I appreciate you spending an hour with me. There are always additional questions about this process, and more so about when we get into the more detailed components of implementation. But we're not really ready there. We're not at implementation phase. Right now, it's next steps. And so join me then. I'll communicate to you via email, via next steps as to what we'll be doing in terms of matching and connections and meeting and school visitation sites. Think of this meeting as an overarching conversation, and I truly do appreciate your time this evening with me. I will be happy to stay on the line if you have additional questions, and if not, thank you for joining me on a Sunday night. I know it's always difficult, when we're always all busy. So I will stop there. Sometimes I can forget to stop and be quiet myself. So thanks again, everyone, for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Leslie. Good night to you as well. So please, if you have questions, don't hesitate, please. Danielle, you ask a great question. Yes, there is a lot of flexibility with the residency program in terms of the mentor teachers and sites and visitations and so forth, where you have, as a candidate, a say, right? As you indicate, do we have a say in where we want to be placed? Yes, you in your interviewing communication, your interviewing conversation, you're speaking to the mentor teachers and the principals, because principals will be there, and I'll be there, and others will be there. Absolutely, you can say, Mrs. Bull, and I know Wendy, obviously, right? I do know who she is. Absolutely, those things happen. This is part of the matching process, and if Mrs. Bull and yourself have had a good relationship, or you had a good experience and you can see yourselves working together, obviously Mrs. Bull is going to ask for you as well. That does happen. That does absolutely happen. Yes, Mrs. Bull is a phenomenal teacher, as you probably know. Kara, unfortunately, it really doesn't. And I say that disappointingly, because obviously I'd like to have a site and a district. I'd like to Kara, and I would love for all of our candidates to do this. I would love to all of the, every single teacher candidate should do this program. But I can't obviously mandate that. And in respect to like Woodbridge, you're right. It doesn't align, because it's really not a high priority environment. And I have to be very transparent to you as a candidate. You're going to want a job. You're going to look and search for a job. The market is tight. The market is tough. There is a lot of competition, especially at the elementary level. You're going to want to experience in an environment where you know that there are going to be positions in employment. And quite frankly, at Woodbridge School District last year, they didn't hire many people at all. Whereas a district such as Capitol and Red Clay and Colonial and Indian River hired, my goodness, multiple individuals, even at the elementary level. So I'm sorry, Kara. I wish I could say yes, but it does not. Diana, is there somewhere? Oh, it's a good question, Diana. Yes, I can email out to everyone in our next communication a listing of all the school sites. I'd be happy to do that for you. These are great questions. Are there any others, please? I know that there's only a few left on in the class, if you I'm in a class, excuse me, in the session. But if not, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening to all of you,